A song can be a product of its time. And sometimes that can be a bad thing, sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes it's indifferent. You just kind of call it as you see it. Today's song that we're featuring, I think, is a prime example of that. Now, personally, I'm a huge fan of the song. I love it. Sail by Awolnation. Now, Sail was released or worked on in 2010. And I can't remember which YouTube video it is, but there is an amazing video where they go on to explain the music history of the 2000s and then of the 2010s. And you have to understand how this song would have come about. This is coming fresh off of, kind of Linkin Park, of course, sadly, nearing its end, at least at that period of time. Grunge kind of hardcore bands from the 1990s and early 2000s were starting to either age out or they were starting to kind of fade into the background. And on top of that, technology was exploding, of course, with the rise of social media and with the rise of the internet, but also with the technology increasing and getting bigger in the music industry. No longer would you need huge orchestras to master the sound of an album or of an individual song. You could have an entire orchestra sound playing on one keyboard. More and more nowadays, starting from kind of that time period, you started to just see maybe a DJ or a solo artist or two on stage, and that was that. Aaron Paul of Awolnation kind of came along with that new wave of sound, like Awolnation, like Imagine Dragons, where you're starting to switch from just that classic 4 or 5 piece rock band with the, 2-3 guitars, and now you're starting to blend in synth. Is starting to become more common in rock music, and Sail is a classic example of that because, of course, you have the tiny orchestra section. If you know how this song goes, I'm not going to sing it for all of you guys, but you know how this song goes. You have that tiny orchestra staccato kind of playing in the background, and then that leads to that heavy synth bass kind of sounding drop that appears every 4 to 5 seconds or near the end of every verse in this song. And it was a huge success, And what's kind of funny is Sail had a kind of a late bloom. Because like I said, literally in 2010 was when this song was released. But I would say it was another good few years before this song really started to gain traction and started to get more and more, especially radio play in the background. Not that they're complaining, though. Now, Aaron Bruno has said about the creation of the song and almost about Awolnation themselves that it really fit his upbringing and his mental health. And it's kind of interesting because while he does comment on his mental health growing up, especially in his teenage years into his 20s, I wouldn't say he really sees it as a bad thing because Awolnation came from, he said, his sister saying that he would go AWOL and not literally go missing, but mentally would go missing. And of course, in the lyrics of Sail, Aaron has said that a lot of fans or people who have heard that song on the radio many times kind of take the darker meaning of it a little too far. Now, it's kind of hard to decipher, to be honest, what he exactly means by that, because literally one of the songs talks about self-deleting, so that's kind of interesting. It's like, well, what do you mean by that when you have kind of such intense lyrics in this song? But of course, ones who struggle maybe with ADD, ADHD go through those sharp ups and downs. I know looking at deciphering the song lyrics of this song kind of made me go down that rabbit hole of people saying like, well, of course it is extreme, but that's kind of the whole point of people who suffer from mental illness is they kind of hop from one extreme to the next before eventually they kind of mellow out again and kind of disappear into their own heads, which is kind of the way the song is constructed, where he comments on his mental health. He goes through those high ups and downs emotionally, and then he kind of warps it right back again to sail, repeating that phrase of the title over and over and over again. And then, of course, during the bridge of the song, where all it is literally him and his bandmates just kind of singing La 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 over and over again. I would sing it, but I'm also kind of afraid of copyright issues. But people say that kind of shows, again, the disappearing from reality way of thinking that those who suffer from ADD and ADHD have. Now, what's really interesting about the song composition is Aaron, when he wrote it and then when he brought it to his producers, the producers said the song was absolutely amazing and that all that it really needed to finish it was a chorus of the song. So he went back to the drawing board. He's like, okay, fair enough. He came back, kind of regrouped to write it again, and he failed to do so. He kind of said like, well, you know what? I like the song how it is. If anything, the word sail kind of is the chorus of the song. So another chorusless, I guess you could say, chorusless song that we featured on this channel where there's not really one. It's just kind of verse, verse, bridge, verse with maybe a phrase that's being yelled or not. But it's a very simplistic song, but I think that's why it strikes a chord with so many people, because again, it's talking about the struggle of mental health. The lyrics kind of become the focus of the song. And yes, while it has such amazing kind of blend of rock and techno kind of synth music going on in the background, it's not over reliant on it at the same time. Now, to this day, Sail is Awolnation's biggest song. Some people would say that they're a one-hit wonder. Some people would argue that they, especially fans, of course, of the band, would argue that they have many songs that the band has released over the years that are great. Awolnation, in fact, has released 6 albums together, including one that came out just in 2024. One last interesting thing before we conclude the video is there is a fan-made edit of this song that's even more popular than the official music video that the studio and the band released themselves. And there was a lot of controversy about the rights and usage of the song with that music video. What do y'all think? Do you like the song? Comment below, and I'll see y'all next week.